So recently I've been really interested in minimalism. So much in fact that last month I did the most minimal video possible for pics. I didn't do one at all. Let's change that this month and get into a new episode of pics. So hopefully you've seen an episode of pics before. If you haven't, basically I do a rundown on a topic of my favourite YouTube channel that corresponds to that topic, my favourite book, favourite app or program, my favourite podcast or article, and my favourite thing that I've bought or ended up with somehow. The only thing I'm going to do different this time is I'm going to list them. I'm going to list them here as I go through them so you know which one I'm on if you skip forward in the video, because one's getting boring. Probably sorting out my own demise there. Let's get into it. So the YouTube channel that I've picked for this episode is Matt Vella's. He's a filmmaker and a minimalist, and he's got a beautiful style. His shooting style is incredible.
My name's Matt Vella. I directed the Netflix documentary Minimalism, and this is my minimalist apartment.
Most of his content I'll talk about in a minute, but the YouTube specific content that he has, the video essays that he produces, they're beautifully shot, they're humorous, and topics like minimalism, filmmaking, money, debt, like personal finance. He talks a lot about how for a time after college he'd got himself into massive amounts of debt, and he talks about how minimalism helped him get out of that, about this change of mindset helped him break out of that debt. His story is really interesting. It's definitely worth checking out. The book that I want to throw out there today is Do Inhabit. You've heard me talk about the Do books before. This one's one of the latest ones I got, and it's really made me very conscious of the space that I live in, the space that I work in, and how that makes me feel, how that impacts my work, my enjoyment of life. There's quite a lot to it. I'm not going to talk too much about this one. If you want to see my full review, it's over on my IGTV, so check that out. I'll link that down below. The app. This one's tough for me for this subject, for minimalism, because really I've just been trying to get rid of stuff, get rid of the apps on my phone that take up too much time. I'll go into a little bit more depth on my phone situation in the final things section. The thing that I'm going to recommend, it's not actually an app, it's just a way of using an app, and it's as simple as setting a bookmark for a timer search on Google. And don't get me wrong, there are more apps and programs out there that will help you manage your social media, but I found that setting a bookmark that just says 3-minute timer, which links to a Google search for a 3-minute timer, is so perfectly rudimentary and so jarringly simple that I actually use it all the time. If I click onto Facebook, if I click onto Twitter, if I click onto Pinterest, I hit that button, that opens up a new tab which has a timer in there, which has the most obnoxious sounding alarm, which goes off after 3 minutes. And like I say, it's stupid simple. You can do it in any browser basically. So I find that I have this like productive time of like a couple of minutes. I'll go onto Pinterest, I'll search for something, or I'll post something, I'll save a couple of other things, and if I don't get off it within like 3 minutes, I just end up down the rabbit hole. I do it with Facebook as well. You end up sort of infinite scrolling, and they're so good at designing that stuff. Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram, and Twitter, they're so good at actually making you want to keep going and keeping you engaged and sucked in, that you have to find something like this to break the spell. And for me, this is working at the moment most of the time. The podcast. Before, when I was talking about the YouTube channel, I said I'd talk a little bit more about it. So before I mentioned the sort of video essays that he does, but the other part of that YouTube channel is the video portion of a show called The Ground Up Show, or Ground Up Show. And that is Matt's podcast. He has guests on there. They talk for 45 minutes to an hour and a half about how they started out, the ground up, and I've got so much value out of it. The production value is really incredible. I've watched a few on YouTube, and he does some sort of interstitial bits, overlays, some B-roll, things like that. But for the most part, it's just the conversation between the two of them, or the three of them in some cases. Highly recommend the podcast though. I've listened to quite a few episodes as just podcasts. You don't really miss anything from not seeing the video. His kind of stretch goal, as he calls it, is to get The Rock on his podcast, because he says that The Rock's sort of ground up story is like one of the best. The last thing is a thing, and it's not actually something I purchased recently. It's something I purchased a couple of years ago. It's been sat in a drawer, and it's an old Nokia dumb phone. It's got number buttons, it's got call and end. It basically does not a lot. Call people, I can text people. It has Twitter on there, it has Facebook on there. They are useless versions of those apps, so I've not even logged into them. Why have I got this though? Why am I using it at the moment? Well, unfortunately I had an iPhone 6 Plus, which is one of the ones that is prone to bending, and just through having it in my pocket, it's bent it enough that it's got this thing called touch disease, where basically the touch controller has unmounted itself from the logic board, and so the touchscreen doesn't work. And my first thought was, I need a new iPhone straight away. And then I actually started using the Nokia dumb phone, grabbed it out, put my SIM card in it, realised that I could put a micro SD card in there, which opened up a world of possibilities. I've downloaded podcasts and I've loaded them onto the SD card, and now I have more storage than I had on my iPhone with the most simple MP3 player. It's really, really oddly freeing. I don't have access to all these apps at the touch of a screen. One of my favorite apps, hands down, is got to be Nike Runkeeper, or I've spoke about this before in a different Picks episode. I really like tracking runs and stuff, but actually I found that it's great when the going's good, but if I see my mileage decreasing, I actually want to run less somehow. I don't know why, but that gamifying thing works sometimes, it doesn't work others. So at the moment I'm just using the stopwatch on that phone, and I'm not even bothering with miles. I'm just seeing how long I go out and run for. And it seems to be working. I do miss having an iPhone though. Damn this minimal life. One thing I am thinking of doing with the phone is keeping this phone as a work phone, and when I do inevitably get another smartphone, using that as my personal phone. I think that, along with having a landline, is a smart move. So they're the things that I've really enjoyed, that in some way fit into the world of minimalism, and I'm definitely gonna think about minimalism a lot more in the future. I've realised that it applies to my life as it already exists, and I have been trying to implement those philosophies in my work, in my home. I think it's really interesting. So definitely check everything out. I'll link it all down below. This has gone on too long. I'll let you go. Go watch another video, or don't, as the case may. I don't know.